Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. So great to be along with you today. We have breaking news for you. I mean, this is huge. So Kash Patel told us that there would be some retribution coming down the line within the next few weeks. Maybe this is the first of the dominoes to fall, at least when it comes to COVID. We've got the situation with the election fraud. But when it comes to the COVID and the pandemic, I want you to listen to this. Department of Justice indicted a former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci today due to the origins of COVID-19 pandemic. This is David Morins. You may remember this guy. This is the one that says, hey, if you want me to privately contact Dr. Fauci, we could do that offline on private email accounts and Gmail accounts. Well, he is now accused of destruction, alteration, falsification of records in federal investigations, concealment, removal, or mutilation of records, and aiding and abetting. This indictment was unsealed today, and it lists two unnamed co-conspirators in all of this. I believe this is going to get into a lot of what we're going to talk about today, which is that everything was a con job when it came to COVID, when it came to the PCR tests that really weren't recognizing COVID. I believe these were flu cases. And now a blockbuster study proves it looks like we're right on that front. So we're going to talk about all that today. Before we do, and we bring in our guest, I want to tell you that the Wellness Company is such a great sponsor of this program. You know they've got their prescription medication kits. Ivermectin in this kit. So many other prescription medications, antivirals, antiparasitics you need in here to keep you and your family safe. There's a Z-Pack in here, amoxicillin. And don't forget the ivermectin mebendazole combination, which is a parasite cleanse, which I went through and was fabulous. But if you're dealing with cancer, you may want to give this a look, and you can get it from the Wellness Company. Unbelievable studies coming out about the ivermectin and mebendazole combination from the Wellness Company, really having clinical benefits with cancer. TWC.Health /Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. And with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome, everybody. I want to bring in my guest, Dr. Alejandro Diaz, to the program. Dr. Diaz, welcome, my friend.
Hi, Grant. Thank you so much for having me back on your show.
All right, so I guess I should ask you your reaction to Dr. David Morins basically being accused of destroying evidence. The indictment comes down today as reported by the New York Post. Your thoughts about all of this and everything you experienced and what we're seeing now?
That is tremendous news. That is breaking news just probably an hour ago. And I really think that many people are very scared right now because they know what they did. They know exactly what they happened. That's why I, as a physician, an immunologist, allergist, immunologist, and a pediatrician, and a scientist, I never call the COVID pandemic. I call them a COVID operation since day one in the last 6 years. Actually, as you know, Grant, I kind of predicted the pandemic in 2018 because I was seeing the global sphere, what was happening with migration and what was happening in Europe and Asia, Latin America, and so on and so forth. That's why I thought, there's something big coming. And the fact of the matter that we were just about to turn 100 years after the last pandemic, which was the Spanish flu, everything makes sense. So I thought we need a reset. And there you go. We have the COVID operation.
All right. So we've got two things to talk about today, which I think play right into this Morins indictment and this operation, as you said, this pandemic. One is this study out of Germany that 84% of the PCR tests, this was widely used to determine whether someone had COVID or not. 84% turned out they did not actually have COVID, and this is because they went and looked at the antigens versus the PCR discoveries of positives, and there were no antigens to COVID, which basically means they didn't have the disease. This was a study out of Germany, peer-reviewed, by the way. Your thoughts, Doc?
Definitely. The Germans are doing a lot of studies about this, and they're doing a great job, actually. I was recently, Grant, invited to speak at the Bundestag in front of a lot of politicians and scientists. And we spoke about that, actually. And, the fact of the matter that PCR, in the words of his inventor, who is recently passed away, in abnormal conditions, Carrie Mullis. He was a chemist and he invented PCR. He said PCR is not a tool for diagnosis, though they use PCR as the main tool worldwide to diagnose COVID, and that was not right. So PCR, basically, polymerase chain reaction, is an amplification of genetic material. So virtually you can see anything you want in any kind of surface of tissue, but they were taking that as at face value, and everything was labeled as COVID. What happened with flu? What happened with other 200 different respiratory virus? Even tuberculosis. Everything. Somebody who with fever, cough, not feeling well, and so on and so forth. It was labeled as COVID. Can you imagine that?
Is this why we saw flu cases virtually disintegrate to nothing during 2020 and 2021, and COVID cases take off? Were they misdiagnosing the flu as COVID?
Not only the flu, but the other 200 respiratory viruses, including mycobacteria and tuberculosis. So basically the order up there was everything it's COVID. That's period. Anybody who comes into the clinic or to the emergency room or to the office visit, it's COVID until proven otherwise.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? And the reason behind that, it was try to inflate the numbers. They need to inflate the numbers for a very sinistratic idea behind that, diabolic idea to push the vaccine.
See, I'm with you. I think it was a diabolic idea. I think this is like evil villain type stuff, because you could say, all right, if you have a well-intentioned government and they hear this COVID, they think everybody's dying, that maybe just the fear got the best of them, and in an overabundance and overcaution, they say, let's do this. But all the evidence looks like now that they knew. You go all the way back to Dr. Fauci saying the masks weren't going to work in the beginning. He said the mask isn't going to do anything. The 7 feet is not based off of science. None of this stuff, which leads me to believe it was diabolical. You believe it was diabolical too?
1,000%. Diabolical 1,000%. A lot of money involved, a lot of different things. And it was mainly to try to deviate the attention because, they were working on something else. And this is not only for one country. This was worldwide. Yeah. This was worldwide, deep state at the highest level. I remember I was in Jordan, in Amman, Jordan, at the beginning of the COVID operation. And Jordan was, if I remember correctly, the first country to completely shut down during the COVID operation. You would see that, Grant. It was amazing. The sirens and everything, and lockdown. Nobody can be after 6 p.m. on the streets, otherwise you go to jail. And it was incredible.
The authors of this study that found that it's like pushing 90% of the cases were bogus. Basically said the reason this correlates to the rest of the world is because if you were a member of the World Health Organization, these were the standards that member states were using, including the United States.
100%. So an evil agenda. And I've been talking to a lot of colleagues, and as you know, since the beginning of the COVID operation, even before. And there's a lot of folks out there saying that it's enough, the COVID thing. It's enough of the vaccines. Let's change the subject. Let's talk about something different. And I say, no. There's no way we're going to do that. We're going to be talking this for years, for decades. This has been the largest and worst disaster in human history. We're still talking about Chernobyl, where and every single life, it's very important, especially for a doctor like myself. But 30 people died. And it's estimated that potentially indirectly after the massive explosion of the radiation nuclear reactor in Chernobyl, Russia, up to 16,000 people all over Europe had indirect consequences, like in cancer and things like that. And that was decades ago. We're still talking about Chernobyl and what happened in Fukushima, Japan, and so on and so forth. We're here with the COVID operation. We're talking about millions and millions and countless number of people worldwide. So we're going to talk it for decades with this.
It's unbelievable that we're still here. And it is years now that we've been talking about this, and we're still not to the bottom of all of it. And, like today's indictment, we're going to get more information because now, as investigators start to unravel their case against these people, now we may start to see even more evidence than we had. Speaking of this study that was done in Germany, which I think is very, very big and proof that they planned this against us. A man I know, Nicholas Holscher, he was just on the podcast last week. He was talking about this. He's been so instrumental in uncovering a lot of this stuff and exposing it. He talked about this on Brandon House's podcast. Take a listen, Doc.
In the early pandemic, 2020, 2021, 86% of COVID cases confirmed by PCR were not real infections. So all of the lockdowns, all of the vaccine mandates, all of those horrible policies that destroyed our livelihoods and economy were based on a completely fraudulent metric. So this study compared PCR positive rates by week to the actual antibody testing in the same weeks. Because the antibody test will tell you, did you get the antibodies to COVID? And only 14% had actual antibodies among those PCR positive cases. It may even be up to 90% weren't even real infections. So now that this fraud is confirmed, again, people have to be held accountable. All the people that lost their jobs, that were forced to take these injections based on this fear campaign, was all based on this false test, this fraudulent test.
I know you don't. The wellness company doesn't. I don't. Forget about the victims in all of this, Doc. But there are victims. There were vaccine injuries. When you look at it, a percentage of everybody, I know it's a small percentage, but it's still a number of people, and a large number of people at that vaccine injured. My father, he's in his 80s. He took the vaccine. Shortly after taking the vaccine, he got appendicitis. I don't look at that as a coincidence. I think that is literally part of it. And yet he continued to take boosters because he was trusting ding-dongs like Fauci. Fauci wasn't even a ding-dong. Fauci was an evil fox is what he was. He was very smart about what he was doing. And so there are real victims in all of this.
Definitely, and we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg. We haven't not even scratched the surface, and my fear is that we will. I mean, I see it every day. I see patients on a regular basis on a busy practice, and I see it every day. Injured people, from myocarditis to pericarditis to neurological problems to thyroid problems, a lot of skin problems, urticaria, chronic urticaria, and so on and so forth. So I'm seeing it firsthand, and I talk to patients and everything. And I was severely criticized by my colleagues at the beginning of the COVID operation because I had a very straight up stance on what was the COVID operation. And then I said, I will never. I really think they're going to come with the vaccine, and then they start with those injectable products of experimentation, toxic injectable products, and then I started to say, everybody, hey, please do not take those shots. And everybody was a product of what Nick mentioned. Those 86% worldwide of fake positive COVID cases. It was just a product of mass formation, social media, and every single table at every single restaurant and country club, and everybody. The main topic was the pandemic. So it was a mass formation, and hence that's why 1.5 billion people took those shots.
Doc, did any of your colleagues who were upset with you for this, did any of them come back and say, hey, you were right, I apologize to you, I now see the reality?
As you know, Grant, that's a great question. As you know, one of the toughest things as humans, it's to realize that we were wrong. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to realize and to accept that. So only very extremely few, and I know a lot of physicians worldwide, very few have admitted that.
So there have been some?
Very few.
Wow. Well, look, admitting you're wrong, I actually wouldn't know how hard that is to do. I've never actually been forced to do that. So no, I'm teasing. I say I'm right 95% of the time. I've run the numbers. 5% I get it wrong. That's a pretty good number.
It's human nature, Brad. It's human nature.
That's right. That's my running joke. All right, I want to talk about something else that Ron Johnson uncovered. That's the senator from Wisconsin in a hearing. Before I do that, I want to ask you about this mebendazole and ivermectin combination. I'm so hot on this because I think it has a real ability to, if not cure cancer, have lives be drawn out much longer after a cancer diagnosis. Ivermectin, mebendazole, it's cheap. You can get it directly from the wellness company. The study that's out that showed so many, the large majority had a clinical benefit to taking ivermectin, meaning there were good outcomes. Your thoughts on this?
You know, ivermectin, Nobel Prize winner medication back in 2015. And then mebendazole, both of them great antiparasitic medications. But it turns out to be as what there have been labeled as repurposed drugs. That means that a specific medication was invented or discovered to cure or treat specific X disease, but it turns out to be, because of the specific mechanism of action, can treat, prevent, or cure another disease. That's the main component of repurposed drugs. And that's exactly what happened with ivermectin and mebendazole. Yes, we cannot claim that that combination can cure cancer, but we at the Wellness Company and other colleagues, we did this amazing study, the largest study in the world of ivermectin 25 milligrams capsule compounding drug with 250 milligrams mebendazole in 197 cancer patients that they were taking our medication. And yes, many of them, they were taking either chemo, radio, or combination of those treatments. But, you know, the outcome using our product, it's 84.4% of clinical benefit. That's unheard of. And almost 50% of those patients, they had what we call a regression of the tumor or non-existent disease anymore. Wow. And those numbers are unbelievable.
It really is amazing. And so, look, this exact formulation is what the wellness company studied. Go figure. The formulation you can buy from the wellness company is exactly that. TWC.Health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. And you will talk to a doctor. I mean, they will. They're not just going to send it to anybody, but you call up and you know what? You'll talk to a doctor about it. And this is one of the few places that make it very easy for people that need this to get on it. TWC.Health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. I'm telling you, the wellness company is committed to your health. And they really are. Doc, can this be used preventatively? I've heard that be talked about as well, that you could use ivermectin and mebendazole as a preventative measure for cancer.
To be honest, Grant, that's a tough claim to make. I cannot say that, but as a physician and as a scientist, I really have huge hope with this combination specifically of ivermectin and mebendazole that potentially, it's helping people with cancer. I wouldn't be surprised. We need obviously more research on this, and we're gonna be doing a lot of research. But I wouldn't be surprised that we even can prevent cancer. There's a doctor by the name William Mackis, who I know very well. I really think he's a great doctor, and he has treated over 9,000 cancer patients with ivermectin. He uses some sort of fenbendazole, sometimes mebendazole, with amazing results. So there are some other people doing this kind of research, though the one that we did with the wellness company is the largest clinical research with this combination and seeing amazing results.
All right. And so again, TWC.Health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off of that formulation. All right, just to review for our audience as it builds here, we've got this arrest of Dr. Morens, who was Fauci's right-hand man. He has been indicted on basically destroying evidence, covering up things. This is the guy that said, hey, we can talk offline. We can use private Gmail accounts to make an end run around transparency in the public. This may be the start of the dominoes falling. We know a cover-up was very, very real. How do we know it? Because good senators like Dr. Ron Johnson, he ought to be a doctor. Senator Ron Johnson in Wisconsin has been uncovering this stuff. Let me play this clip of him explaining what his investigation has found. And quite frankly, it's eye-popping.
Because of Secretary Kenny's dedication to radical transparency, we got about 11 million pages of documents that we weren't getting from HHS under the Biden administration. And we have now uncovered the fact that FDA officials knew in March of 2021 that their analytical system for the VAERS system was completely inadequate, that it would mask significant safety signals. They had a different system that would, produce this information unmasked. They presented that to top FDA officials, and they covered it up. There were 49 cases of extreme masking, resulting in 25 safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, Bell's palsy, pulmonary infarction. I mean, very serious side effects. And again, I said I didn't need a sophisticated system. I saw deaths per year go from a couple hundred to over 20,000 the year the vaccine came out in 2021, and yet the FDA officials hid behind their analytics that they knew would hide these safety signals to continue to claim to this day, well, we didn't see any safety
Senator
signals
Johnson,
with the COVID injection.
So think about that. They hid the data from the VAERS system that showed there were all of these negative results, complications. I'm not even going to call them side effects. They're awful. Sudden cardiac arrest is a side effect. That's like killing people. So when you look at this, and I'll ask you, Dr. Diaz, your response that they covered it up. They knew the side effects and covered it up according to the senator.
No, definitely. I have no doubt in my mind that this was a huge cover-up, a lot of fraud, a lot of. We go to the same principle: evil agenda. That's exactly what happened. I mean, back in the day, I remember when I was just starting medical school in the 90s. In the beginning of the 90s, there was this rotoshield vaccine that it was supposed to prevent rotavirus, and they started to see in a suspicion that it was kind of a intestinal problem and a few deaths, unfortunately, a lot of inspection, and they just pull it off the market. I mean, and it was just a few cases. With this, I mean, we're seeing millions and millions of affected people worldwide, and the shots are still there. I don't understand that part.
It's amazing, and you talk about a cover up. I'm just looking at my numbers on the podcast. It's always been a challenge on YouTube, Doc. Right? YouTube had kicked me off, and then I get back on, and they won't. We just climbed to 2 viewers on YouTube. Now we've got at times over 100 on Rumble, and that viewership will build to 12 to 30,000 on Rumble. But on YouTube, when we were talking before, there were 0 people on YouTube. I've got approximately 5,000 followers on YouTube. You can't tell me more than 2 people are going to tune in when we're going live. I think this is the total suppression, and I think this story with the headline today about the cover-up, they're still wanting to suppress the information of the truth, Doctor.
100%. I had the opportunity, Grant, to speak virtually in the most important senates and congresses in the world, like the Romanian parliament, the European parliament in Brussels twice, the Mexican Senate, in the United States, and in Japan at the Japanese Senate, to talk about this, through biopolitics and just exposing exactly what was going on and where we are heading, just to try to bring more light to the people and try to recover the path and going to the right path, restore our healthcare system worldwide, and so on and so forth through biopolitics. And I've been very, very active, speaking out loud everywhere I go about this. But we need more voices like your voice and your program and many others, because this was something that it really changed the course of life.
Well, I couldn't put it better, and I am grateful to your compliments. It's your voice and the other doctors that are really powerful, because you're inside this community, and this is why I think it makes a great partnership between us, the wellness company, so many other podcasters out there. The wellness company is totally committed to getting the truth out, which is why I love my affiliation with this company, and I know that's what you're committed to. Dr. Diaz, it's always great to see you. Where can people find you on social media?
So they can find me on X. My account number, it's at Alejandro Diaz MD, and my Substack, which is Biopolitics.
Biopolitics it is. Dr. Diaz, always good to see you. I appreciate you coming on as usual.
Thank you so much, Grant.
All right. Thank you, my man. So, folks, we're going to follow this. I've got to reshuffle the Real America's Voice show now with this news that Dr. Morens has been indicted. That is big news, in my opinion. So we've got to do that tonight. I'm going to reshuffle the show. I'm going to get in touch with the producers and do that. But in the meantime, the in-between time, I want you to make sure you go visit the wellness company, TWC.Health/Grant. Give this ivermectin and bendazole combination a look. And the parasite cleanse, by the way, just on the sheer fact, I think every American should do this at least once a year. TWC.Health/Grant. And then all of the products and supplements, weight loss products, pain gels like TheraBlue, which is fabulous, peptide-based, deep penetrating. Go pay them a visit. TWC.Health/Grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. That's going to do it for us on the show today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. We will see you back here tomorrow.